Sports Report. Riley, man, I mean, just we talked about it earlier, but just you couldn't if you were going to script that game to be as crazy as it would. I mean, you couldn't script it any crazier.
No, you couldn't. The twists and the turns, all the way the momentum swings, it felt different in the first half, right? 22-0, and then unfortunately, I thought that touchdown before half got the Cats some momentum. And going into the locker room, it just seemed whatever adjustments that they made on the offensive side of the ball, they were continuing to wear down the Grizzlies. And I think that both fronts, we were worried about that with the Cats' offensive line, defensive line. To me, they proved to be the difference. The holes were bigger in the second half. And then obviously, you saw what the Cats did in their D-line on the final play of the game.
But that's something that we've kind of seen all year, is Montana come out to big leads at half. Yeah. And for whatever reason, they haven't been able to finish it off this year.
Outscored by over 60 points in the fourth quarter this year. And the turnovers, again, it's amazing that the season was summed up in one game. I mean,
in one play, to me, at the very end, really.
Truly,
I mean,
it was.
They couldn't get the 1 yard, and they couldn't not fumble all year, and they do the both on the
Exactly. 2 fumbles in the final 6 minutes of that. You just can't do it. But then also, we've seen what this team's capable of, right? The first halves against Davis, and then what we saw against Montana State. That's what's so maddening about it. And I can guarantee you the theme for this team in the offseason, it'll be painful, but finish. It's all about finishing. They didn't finish games this year. They'd be 9-2, and who knows what would happen.
Now, I'm the host of this Grizzly Sports Report, and I'm a Grizz alum and stuff, but doing the job that I do, I've kind of gotten numb to the rivalry in the sense that it's hard. I don't get emotional about it anymore because I have to be kind of unbiased, even though everyone that's watching in Bozeman will probably say that I'm
the
not.
Opposite, of course.
But from your side of it, when you're so entrenched in it, I mean, that's got to be just as gut-wrenching for you as it is for Coach Houck that we talked about earlier and for the fans. And being on that call was just, you could hear it in your voice, It really was. And it was something in the radio booth, and I work with Greg Sundberg, who, of course, is very invested. As homer as it gets,
Of course, an associate AD to go along with color guy. But we drove home together. And that's about as emotional, just emotionally drained because you put so much into it, this team all year, and you believe in them, and rightfully so. It's not false at all. You want this team to win. You feel that they can do it. You know what they're capable of. But at the same time, man, I hurt for those guys. I hurt for the staff because of how much work they put in, but just everything with the administration. You're right. The difference from maybe what we do is that emotional connection with it, and it's very tough.
That said, if you're trying to find something positive to take away, I mean, if they get that 1 yard, if they don't fumble at Western Illinois, if they don't fumble at Portland State, I mean, you're looking at a 9-win team that could go a couple games in the playoffs. So can you look to that and be like, hey, it won't be that hard to turn it around for next year?
I feel there's so much optimism, and rightfully so. The culture got changed, and I know Coach Houck talked about it earlier on in the show, but that was the biggest thing from this year. When there's no consolation prizes, there's no moral victories, especially when you lose the final game of the year. But the culture got changed in that locker room. That's a sign of optimism, and 19 of the 22 starters are back. That is an extreme sign for optimism. They just need to learn how to win games, finish, take care of the football, and I think things are looking good for Grizzly football.
Well, speaking of looking good, we'll talk some Grizz hoops coming up after the break, give you a little season preview.